Welcome, everybody. It's Teb Drummo, and this is Social Selling TV. And you can watch this and past episodes at socialsellingtelevision.com. And today's guest is Alex Lanshe, and we met, gosh, must be 3 or 4 years ago now, at a mastermind we were in together. And it's, sometimes you just meet people at a conference or in a mastermind, and you click. And other people, you have relationships, but Alex and I just, something about it, we clicked, and we've been on each other's email lists for the last few years. We interact on social media. We've just really become virtual friends from this experience. So welcome, Alex.
Hey, Ted. Thanks for having me on.
So tell us a little bit about your background. You can say it much better than I can.
So background, if we're going all the way to the beginning, was started out in martial arts as a little kid. So I was 5 years old when my parents put me in martial arts programs. And from there, never quit the training, just stayed with it. Everybody else, goes off to different sports and things. I just kept plugging away at it for a long time. Did a lot of stuff there. And when I got to be around a teenager, we started to shift into reality-based training, more like with military folks, police, like really trying to figure out how do you actually protect people in real life and not just do the tournament stuff, which I did when I was younger. So from there, that's pretty much where it was at. And then in 2014, I started my own company, training my own clients in personal protection, self-defense, and things of that nature. Anyone from young adolescent, maybe like 12, 13-year-olds. I have a couple of clients around that age, but the majority of them are adults who are just interested in real life. How do I actually stay safe?
Yeah, it's kind of sad that we all have to think about that these days. I'm telling you.
I wish that it was not necessary, but it's becoming more and more necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't even think about it.
No.
Nope. Someone posted today, it's like, are you considering buying a bulletproof vest? I'm like,
yes, to walk around in daily life. No, I don't want to do that.
No.
I don't. Well, see, the thing, not to go on a tangent, but they're starting to get way better at that technology, though.
Yeah.
They have some now that look like a polo shirt.
Yeah.
They don't look like the huge, police Kevlar, because nobody wants to wear something like that in daily life.
We don't need to go there,
No,
yes.
I don't think we're there yet. Hopefully we don't ever get there. That's partly why I'm doing what I'm doing.
No, really, our chances are really minute that something will happen to us. But
right.
Yeah. So we've been talking, I've been on your email list for a few years, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
And a while back, and I always am telling people, you got to share your vulnerabilities. You got to tell your stories and be authentic with your audience.
Yes.
And if you don't do that, you're going to get okay engagement. But once you start showing that you're not perfect, amazing results happen. So tell us about these emails you sent. Gosh, was it about a month ago or so?
It was at the end of June, I believe.
Oh, okay.
It was already that long ago, if you can believe it. But no, you're totally right, because I started sending stuff out, right? I was like, I'm going to make my own email, send out my blogs. I've been blogging for a while. And you get decent feedback sometimes, but the thing that I'm going to talk about next is when I really got a lot of people reaching out. And it was because I actually went through, to go back to my background, one of the guys we got connected with when we started to do the military type stuff and the reality-based training turns out the guy was a poser. He was a fraud. And he had deceived a lot of us, myself included. And so I first knew him like 12 years ago and had been working with him and training with him. And the weird thing is a lot of the training we did was actually good training, but he lied about his background. Like everything about his background was made up. He didn't tell people where their money was going. So he'd said it went one way, but it was actually going, different places. And he's not honest about it when people confront him on it. So it was something I had to break ties with. And in so doing, I sent out those emails about that experience. And I really started to do research into cults and things of that nature, because he really was a cult of personality. I got really weird pushback from people that were in it, like as if I was criticizing God,
Yeah.
Because when this guy had built up this mythos that people just could not see through and let go for whatever reason, and why I eventually saw it, I don't know. Why other people don't, but I was in it for 12 years. and he was a fraud the whole time. Basically, someone said it. You ever see the movie Catch Me If You Can?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's basically who he is. He's that kind of a guy. So that's why some of our training was still really good, because he'd go to different places, steal it from other people, pass it off like it was his own original thought, and like he had access to it specially, and nobody else knew it. But he's just a good data miner and would pull stuff from everybody else and then lie and say it was his when it wasn't his. So, but yeah, when I sent those emails out about that experience, you contacted me. Other people from the other mastermind that we were connected with reached out and were like, hey, do I know this person? I was like, no, you guys don't know who it is. It's not a speaker. It's not one of the big like info marketer people. So don't worry about it. It's nobody you're ever going to know. But, and I never named who the person was in the blogs on purpose. I didn't want to get into, it wouldn't have been defamation because all the stuff I was saying was true, but I didn't even want to put it out there because everybody who was in it, they knew who I was talking about.
You were taking the high road and
yeah. And all the people that needed to know who were still involved, they all knew exactly who I was referring to, because I got emails from some saying like, you know, you shouldn't say things like that about this person. And I was like, how do you know who I'm talking about?
Right.
I didn't say who it was. Oh, you know, because that's exactly what that person does. So Thank you for proving that that's what he does. And they didn't like that too much.
But, so was it like your intuition just told you something's not right here?
Yes. Eventually, and this was, again, I told this in one of the blogs that I sent out, was for about 3 years ago is when I first started to feel like there's something off. I don't know what it is. Something's wrong. I just had a vague intuition that he's concealing something from you. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what it was, but I ignored it for 3 years. It would come up and I would push it aside and go, no, but you know, I'd rationalize it away. Can't be that, because I had too much to lose.
Yeah.
And I did, honestly, you know, not trying to like toot my own horn, but I did lose a lot, because a lot of the people that are still in that group, they did not leave when I left. They are still supporting this person. They're not really connected with me anymore. And some of these are people I've known for 20 years.
Wow.
I'm not even 30. So some of these people I've known like basically my whole life, and they really not that close anymore, really can't do much anymore, because they are still in it and they won't admit what the truth is. So It was at great personal cost, and that's why I think for 3 years I was like, no, I don't need to look into that. That's not true. But eventually,
so how does it feel now to just let this out, even though you're not naming the person?
I have been doing it a lot since June. It's been very cathartic, honestly, and I only talk about who it is with the people who need to know. But that's very few people at this point. Most people don't really care. They still want to get. I had one person who was in it. He said, I'd prefer not to hear about this, so I'd rather just stay ignorant. I said, I appreciate your honesty. So I stopped talking to him because he didn't want to know. He didn't want to know about it.
Right.
But yeah, from the social side, the engagement that I got from actually talking about that was way better than anything I've ever put out. The data on all those 4 blogs, there was a 4-part blog series about, you know, it being a cult, and then why I left, and signs of what cults are and stuff. All of those by far still have the best data, the best numbers on anything I've ever put out.
Yeah, because you know we all publish a lot of content. We teach people. You got to get it out there.
Yep, every week putting out new stuff.
And for the most part, it's like a monologue. We're really just putting it out there, and we don't get much interaction, even though we'd love to have comments and likes and shares.
That's true.
You know, 90% of it just they maybe read it, but doesn't grab their attention and make them want to reach you or pick up the phone and call you.
No, I mean, until you get, and you know, you and I think we can speak honestly. We're not at the like Tony Robbins level. Newsflash. Like,
right.
So like when
I'm not.
In case you didn't know, but like, so until you get to certain points like that, you really don't get a lot of interaction all the time. And it's fascinating for me to study, because there's certain people, they get all kinds of feedback constantly, and like, you know, what is it about what they're doing that really is making people engage like that?
Right.
And I think it's kind of different for each influencer depending on who it is. You know, I'm really trying to dive back into Simon Sinek's Start With Why, and like really getting clear on why it is I'm doing what I'm doing, to try to hit people that really believe what I believe, because it's hard to talk to everybody at once.
what it did for me after reading those, like I always held you in a high level of integrity and esteem,
Thank you.
self-esteem, and you were up there. But
Thank
now
you.
you are at a whole nother level in my eyes
I
because you
appreciate
shared
that.
this incredible thing. It's like, wow, that took a lot to do that.
I have been told that from multiple people, and it's interesting because this guy that I separated from, he's been doing this for so long. He's probably been having these little cult-like followings for over 40 years. And so there's been a lot of people that went through what I went through and then left and, got out. But no one ever publicly exposed it that way.
Yeah.
Not one person. And I kind of felt bad that like I was cheated, but I don't know if it really would have mattered necessarily if someone would have written a blog. I don't know if I probably would have read it and dismissed it. I had to probably be ready myself in my own time.
Mm-hmm.
But it still was kind of like, man, like a lot of you other people, like you went through this and you talked to some of the people, but you talked privately. None of you like actually publicly sounded the alarm on this. You know, and that was frustrating because I'm like, this guy's really not a good person. And not just the fraud stuff. The fraud for me is like, fine, you lied about where my money's going. I kind of figured you were probably taking more of it than you were letting on.
Right.
But some of the other things were like he would try to hit on married women in the group, see if they would cheat on their spouses. Like there's all kinds of things that you're like, well, that's none of my business. But I'm like, no, that, I hold myself to a higher standard than that. I think everybody should.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit around and be like, well, they're both adults, so I guess that's okay. It's like, no, that's not okay. He's a leader and an influencer. He should not be trying to see if female students will cheat on their husbands and stuff. That is so wrong.
Yeah. Now there's people who've been around forever,
wrong.
but now with the internet, it's magnified and
yes,
it's sad because we make our living on the internet, basically getting our word out to the internet. So there's like this perception that everybody on the internet's a rip-off artist.
Well, they're probably almost not wrong. I mean, I wish that wasn't the case, but
yeah.
So it is hard to be in our space because you're right. The marketing too for me is like I'm really struggling with like how do you actually market? I think the more you focus on marketing, the worse it gets. Honestly,
yes.
Like you just need to be yourself and be vulnerable, like we're talking about, and then whoever that resonates with, stick with those people.
Right.
And if it doesn't resonate with someone else, then more power to them. But because trying to like craft the perfect email to like get this emotion and to make people do that, it's so tiring. It's so cumbersome.
It's fake too.
You're
trying to manipulate them.
You feel fake. I feel fake doing it. And I think at this point, the customers, the consumer is so saturated with that now. Like just scroll through Facebook and look at all the sponsored ads and stuff. They all sound the same.
Yeah.
And everybody knows they're not like authentically because they care about you. It's a Facebook ad.
Yeah.
So
what
I don't know.
Like, to me is like when everybody talks about this Facebook hack or this LinkedIn hack.
Yeah, yes.
Like you're tricking the system, you're going to get caught. So you can make a little money for a while, but you're doing. I keep seeing these people on there, like you said. It's like I know that's not working. That's a trick.
Yep.
Because you get suspended, your account gone. LinkedIn account's going to go away, or Facebook.
Yep. Or the people that are like, I got rich doing this, and now I'm going to teach you how to do it for a lot of money. And I'm like, wait a second, time out. If you got rich doing that, why aren't you still doing that to make a lot of money?
And that's the trick.
You wouldn't
it doesn't
have
work
any
anymore,
time.
so let me teach the technique to somebody. Make more
you wouldn't have any time to be teaching me if you really had X strategy that was making you millions on, what on earth, you'd be running those things all day long. You wouldn't be setting up teaching classes.
Right. I made millions flipping houses. Let me teach you how. I was like, well,
let me teach you how to do it. There's still a lot of real estate you can flip. Like, why aren't you flipping the real estate? So I don't know, but it's the experience you gain, I guess, from being in the industry. There are still some good people out there, but you gotta find them.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to resonate with 100% of the people. There's going to be people that love us. There's going to be people that hate us. There's going to be people that don't even care about us. So find those people that love you by sharing your vulnerabilities and being honest. That's the same thing.
I agree.
I cannot take money from people if I can't help them.
No, exactly.
I've had so many coaches tell me, Ted, you're leaving so much money on the table. Like, I'm not going to
I'm
rip
sure you are, but
yeah.
you actually have a moral compass.
Yeah.
So
I sleep at night very well
yeah,
because I know I'm helping people.
I said I'm not willing. I kind of likened it to like celebrities, like willing to sell their soul to get into a film or something. And I'm like, I'm not willing to sell out like that.
Yeah.
I'm just not. So if that means that I'm going to leave money on the table, then I'm going to leave money on the table because I hated myself when I was first getting into the speaker universe, the marketer universe, and being a lot younger when I first got into it. I was like in my early 20s. So I had no idea what I was doing. And you just listen to what all the experts are saying. Oh, okay, I guess I got to be like that. And I hated how I felt when I was trying to be like those people.
Yeah.
Hated it. Because like, this isn't me. I don't care about any of that stuff. Like me personally, I'm not a big glitz and glam kind of guy.
Yeah.
I don't need it. Like I'd rather get into the actual truth and the content and stuff. And so I don't tend to put a lot of glitz and glam into how I market things. And if that's leaving a lot of money on the table, I don't know. Me now, they may not be the people I really want to do business with anyway.
Right. I'd rather work with 10 people that resonate with me than try to get 1,000 people to give me money that I know I can't help.
Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or that you're going to have to pretend like you're a whole different person around because they like the persona you've created.
Right.
They don't really care about how you actually are. They need you to act. They need you to be a character. And I don't want to be a character. I mean, I like watching good movies. I like acting, but I don't want to actually be a walking character every time I go to a speech or, get on a podcast or something. I don't want to have to, all right, now we're going into Alex character that gets put out to the world. I don't really want to do that.
Thank you for saying that because forever they've been saying that. I've been doing this 15 years now and they're saying, you got to become someone and have this whole persona and this whole thing. Is like, why can't I just be myself?
Yeah. And you can, as long as you're okay with what the results of that are going to bring.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's why people end up taking on a character because they think they have to do that to get the kind of business and audience that they want. But like, if you're okay with just attracting people that are like you and that believe what you believe, then it doesn't matter. You don't have to, it's so easy. You don't have to do a whole lot of extra work for stuff because you just are who you are. And if people like that, then they gravitate to you. And if they don't, they go somewhere else.
Because when you deceive people and take their money and don't help them, you're going to get bad reviews on the internet. They're going to attack you.
Yeah, it's such a short-term strategy. And I was just on, David Phelps?
Yeah.
I was just on his podcast, and I asked him about that because I don't know if you've ever seen anything they do at Freedom Founders, but I've been out there a couple of times. They have an amazing community of people. Amazing community of people. And I asked him, how did you build that, David? Because a lot of people, all the other events you can go to and stuff, I've never been to any events where it's actually got that feel where everybody actually cares about each other. You can kind of tell at these other events, everyone's really just there to try to take for everybody else.
Yeah.
There isn't really a community feel there. And I'm like, but that's not how David's is. So I'm like, how on earth did you do that? And he said, you have to stick to your values and your principles from the beginning. He said, you're going to be very tempted starting out to compromise on all that, to make money quick, because you got to make money because you're in business. He's like, but your long-term success will be so much better served if you just lay your foundational principles down and just stick to them. Just consistently stick with them. It's probably going to be slow growth. You're probably going to struggle in the beginning, but in the long run, you will have a sustainable foundation and you won't be basing it on lies and cheats. And that's exactly what this guy did that I broke away from in the cult. All his stuff is built on lies. And so when people finally figure that out, it's over. There's no trust. Right. And they all leave. And so the reason that really tipped me off to get out of that was I started to see people that have been around for a long time suddenly were just gone.
Yeah.
And there's no mention of them. He doesn't say anything about them. None of the other members talk about them. And I was just, one day, I'm like, two particular people. I'm like, where did these two people go? I'm like, and they were some of the most influential, gung-ho, we're all about this people, in the group. And then suddenly they're just gone. I'm like, they just paid a lot of money to get this new rank. Where did they go all of a sudden? And I reached out to them and they told me what happened. And I was like, wow. And nothing they said was oh, that can't be real. Everything they said, I was like, makes sense. That just confirms all my suspicions and all my fears.
Yeah. It's so
And then
much easier when you tell the truth because you don't have to
yeah,
remember the lies you told.
exactly. And the more digging I did, the more it confirmed everything they told me. And I was like, all right, well, that's the end of that. Can't be part of that.
Yeah. And that's how I build my communities, one brick at a time, basically. It's just building trust and relationships. It's a slow and steady approach. And, you know, I've been around 15 years doing this. And a lot of the people that started internet marketing, some are in jail now. It's like,
yeah, that's how you know you're doing it wrong.
there's some people that lost everything a couple times. Like, guys, just be honest. And so I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. So how
I
can
really
people
appreciate
tell us
that.
about this new book that you got coming out?
Yes,
Oh,
yes. So
today, right?
it
Yesterday.
already launched. It's on Amazon. It's called Anatomy of a Warrior: The 7 Virtues All Protectors and Warriors Must Live By to Successfully Protect and Serve. So we interviewed 120 different industry leaders in the protector/warrior space, from the military, from police, and also from the private sector. And we distilled out of them what are the 7 most important virtues that, again, like if we're going to clone, or the way I said it to David too on his show was like, if you had to hire, you know, like a bodyguard and a security team to protect you and your family, like what kind of virtues would you absolutely want those people to have, because your family is at stake,
Right.
you know. And that's what we were trying to get at with the book. And so we came up with the 7 most referenced virtues out of 120 interviews. So there were some that some people said, but they weren't as referenced as much. But these 7 were like the top ones that showed up the most often in the interview. So it was a kind of a research gathering process, you know, some data mining. But I got it from the actual people that have been there, done that, and do it. So anything from Navy SEALs, Green Berets, all different special forces people, and then, you know, all different various types of police officers, like homicide detectives, narcotics, you know, chiefs of police, and even some people that are just real world survivors of violence. Had a couple rape survivors, home invasion survivors, you know, and then people that then went on to be supportive of people's right to protect themselves. So a lot of good people that we talked to in that project.
So a lot of real world heroes, really. These
Real
people put their
world.
life on
Yep.
the line every day for us to
Yep.
save
Yep. One guy that was pulling people out of burning plane that crashed on the tarmac. He was a ranger and caught on fire and was pulling people out of the flames even while he was burning.
Wow.
Those are some of the more extreme acts of heroism. But then others that were, you know, run-of-the-mill people. They just do their job. They don't really get much attention or gratitude very often, but they do an important thing, whether, again, that's public or private sector.
Right. Well, like that guy last week, he like saved people in the New York City one. He's like, oh, I'm just doing my job. Like,
just doing his job. The most recent one in Texas, apparently he was neutralized by one of the community members who happened to be an NRA instructor.
Yeah.
You know, and so he's not a, that's why the book talks about how anybody can be a warrior, because being a warrior is a choice. It's not a title. It's not a, you know, like some kind of rank or like honor that someone can bestow upon you. Mm-hmm. It's just the way you choose to live.
Yeah.
So a soldier gets paid to go fight in wars, and, you know, you're usually employed by some kind of government. But a warrior is not necessarily a soldier. That can be anybody. The mother who, you know, is protecting her children is a warrior.
Right.
She's not a soldier. She's not a professional, but she's a warrior.
She'll do anything to protect her children.
Right. Right. Yep. So that's really the essence we were trying to get to in the book. And my whole point too is I really think that virtue is like the missing link right now. I think it's the thing that is not being talked about anymore. It's kind of on the tip of everybody's tongue, but no one's really saying it. And the real bottom line is we explore in the book, how do you use virtue to protect yourself from violence? Mm-hmm. How can virtue actually prevent, protect against, and help you prepare for violence? And so it's very ideal, especially for anybody who's in that space. If you actually are a professional in that industry, that is really going to help you, because that is your job. Your job is to prevent and deal with violence.
Right.
And then anybody who is not in the professional role, but if they're interested in, you know, what can I actually do? Because a lot of people get, they feel overwhelmed. Like, well, I can't like shoot very well. I've never really owned a gun, or you don't even have to own a gun necessarily to be a warrior anyway. That's myth number one. but if virtue is immediately accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
You don't need a whole lot of training to do it. You don't need to go get a bunch of new gear and spend a whole ton of money on courses, although I do think people should go get some good training. But first and foremost, if you want what's immediately accessible to anyone, to the 85-year-old who's in a wheelchair, it's probably not going to be Rambo anymore, but you can still positively affect people through virtue, and virtue neutralizes violence.
Yeah.
So that's really awesome. That's the whole point of the book.
So did you intend to write this book and interview these people, or did you just interview a bunch of people and said, I should write a book?
Yeah, the story on that is I was out of college and I didn't really know what I was doing because I got to the end of college and I was going to do physical therapy, but got to the last year of undergrad and was like, oh, physical therapy is $100,000 in student loans to go to a PT school. I don't really feel like doing that.
Wow.
So was looking for other options. Still just finished my degree and graduated, but didn't want to go on to grad school for that kind of money.
Yeah.
And ended up meeting with a mentor down in Tennessee just to have like a brainstorming session. And we talked about what I was interested in. And obviously he was like, well, you've been in the protector/martial arts space forever. So why don't you interview the top people in the industry and write a book about it? And I was like, okay. At that point, I didn't know what the topic was going to be at all. It was just, all right, that's a good idea, but I have no idea how I'm going to do that.
And then you're probably thinking, I've never written a book. How do I write a book?
Well, no, I had already written my first book at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Warrior Attitude was already out, but in comparison, like the amount of man hours it took to do this last one compared to the first one, it's like 100 to 1. Like the first one, I got something done because I wanted to get a book done. It's still a good book, but it didn't involve all the research. I didn't interview anybody for it. So it had nowhere near the amount of time go into it that this new one did.
Yeah.
You know, but at the time I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, all right, guy that I trust says write a book about stuff by talking to people. So let's start talking to people.
Those are the best books because they're true stories.
Right. And so the first contact I got was one of the bigger guys in the industry, Dave Grossman. I went to one of his seminars and approached him at the event. So here's the ninja stuff for anybody, you know, who wants to take some good stuff away. I went to his event, so I had to show up. I had to put my butt in the seat and, you know, pay to be at an event. And walked up to him at the end at a break and gave him a copy of my first book, the Warrior Attitude book, and just said, hey, you know, I've my third time at your events. I really appreciate everything you've done for the protector world. So I wanted to give you a copy of my book. He was like, oh, he was blown away by that. So I signed him my book, gave it to him, didn't say anything. On another break, then I went up to him and said, I'm also writing another book, and I'm interviewing people for it. Do you mind if I interview you for the book? And he said, sure. I mean, what's he going to say? I gave him a book. Right? So he had to say yes. So, and because he already was very influential in the space, he was able to refer me to 7 or 8 other people.
Wow.
And that's what really got the project going then, because from that point on, I was able to tell people, like, I've already interviewed Dave Grossman, and that gave a lot more credibility to the project. And some people for sure only did it because they knew he was connected to the project. Like, oh, well, if you interviewed Dave, then it must be legit because he does serious stuff.
That's awesome advice right there. That's golden right there.
Right. It's truly golden. And I imagined what would have happened if I had started something like this when I was like 18.
Yeah.
Because if you are a teenager and you do this exact process of interviewing people for books, they will refer you to anyone.
Yeah.
Because you're a teenager. Everybody wants to help teenagers. It's even better if you're in high school. They will refer you to anybody because, oh, you're a high school student writing a book. They'll pass you along to so many people. So the younger you do it, the better, I think. I mean, they will give you to so many places. And I'm still shocked at some of the people I was able to talk to. So an example is probably one of the biggest guys in the whole industry is Gavin de Becker. He has the largest private security firm in the world. He was on the New York Times bestsellers list for 17 weeks with one of his books, The Gift of Fear.
Wow.
Lives, you know, out of the country most of the year and gets like 18 grand for a 1-hour speech. So he's a big deal.
Yeah.
And he wrote the afterword for the book, and I've never met him in person once. But he still wrote the afterword because he respected the project that much and because he knew about the other people at that point that I had talked to, and he knew it was serious.
Yeah.
But I'm like, never even met the guy, and he did all that stuff for me. So if you use that process, it's incredible what you can get access to.
Kind of the lesson I'm hearing from you is if you don't ask, the answer is no.
Yes. No, yeah, because I was literally just sitting there the one day editing and writing, and I was like, why don't I ask Gavin de Becker to write the afterword? I'm like, the worst thing he can say is no, I'm too busy.
Right.
And then who cares? You didn't have it before, you don't have it now. And I just reached out, and I thought it's probably going to be too late because I was trying to get the book published. And he was like, no, he said, I can work in that time schedule. He worked on my schedule to get it done. So I was like,
Yeah.
Man. But again, yeah, you definitely will not get any of that stuff if you don't ask for it. And
Another huge takeaway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You might get rejected, but if you can die to that fear, then it doesn't matter. Just, okay, they said no, go on to the next person, or
Yeah.
Again, you didn't have it before and you don't have it now, so nothing changed.
Right.
Just keep going.
It doesn't hurt your feelings if they don't respond.
No, yeah. If you can divorce, like taking it personally, then you can ask for whatever you want. I think a lot of people maybe don't, because then they kind of get hurt on their personal feelings. They're like, oh, like they said no. It's like, it's not about you. A lot of those people, they are so busy, they don't have the time. And again, you just didn't build up the relationship enough when you asked. And all it means is no for right now. It doesn't mean, okay, maybe you write another book 2 years later, ask them again.
Right.
I mean, it's just, it's only over if you think it's over in that sense, because, as long as you're not dead and they're not dead.
Yeah.
It's just over for right now. It's not over indefinitely. So
it's the same thing I did when I wrote my second LinkedIn book.
Mm-hmm.
I said, actually, James told me to do this. Hey, just mail a copy of your first book to Brian Tracy and write a note, because I've been a Brian Tracy fan for over 20 years. I said, hey, I love your stuff. I own all your programs. I would be honored if you could write a testimonial for my new book. And within 48 hours, I had a testimonial back from him that I included on the cover.
That's crazy. And Brian Tracy is an overachiever. He'll actually get that stuff done. If it gets in front of him, he'll actually do that stuff. But
it was so easy.
Right? Right? No, it really is. But it's related to what we were talking about earlier, with just being honest and authentic about it. Like, I'm working on this project. Is there anybody you know?
Yep.
That could write a testimonial, help promote the book. Like, that's all I'm doing now, is I'm individually reaching out to all the people I've interviewed and just trying to drill in, like, who do you know that can promote it? Do you have do you have a platform? Do you know anybody who does? Because a lot of them, they've been on media or they own their own, businesses and stuff. So I'm like, how do we work together to promote this?
Another big takeaway
slowly coming in, and whatever works, and whatever doesn't.
The slow and steady approach is my whole motto in life too. It's another big takeaway though is once you write a book and you can mail it to people or hand them that hard copy or the paperback, it opens up so many doors, because it's a big deal to write a book.
It is. Even self-publishing is still a big deal. Number one, people don't automatically assume you self-published. A lot of people's minds automatically go to, a book is just a book. They don't know all the ins and outs of publisher versus self-publisher. They don't know all that stuff. Right. So if you have a hard copy to give them, that's a big deal. And I know that had a huge deal in this new book, because if I wasn't able to give Grossman my first book, what was I going to do? Just walk up to him and be like, can I interview you? I mean, he gets those requests all the time.
Right.
All those kind of people are so busy. Like, oh, I'd love to have you on my show and stuff. It's like, but they don't know who you are. You haven't done anything. Like, they're not as likely. Oh yeah, I got plenty of time. They don't have time.
Right.
So they need to see something tangible. And so the other thing, I guess, would be a good takeaway for your listeners is, I did not care about getting the Warrior Attitude book perfect.
Yeah.
Which was hard for me, because if you know Julie Carrier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I always remember her line when she would talk about, I'm a recovering perfectionist. That's always kind of stuck with me, because I'm like, I relate to that. So I'm like, I had to get over that, because you can spend forever tweaking it.
Yeah. And
Warrior Attitude's whole point was I just have to have one done. So I can order my own copies to give to people. I don't even care if anybody buys it. It's not about, that first one was not about that. It's about having something done that I can give to people. And has it sold some copies? Yeah. But I've already sold more copies of the Anatomy of a Warrior book than I've sold in 3 years of the Warrior Attitude book.
Right.
Because I wasn't pushing that one. That wasn't the purpose of that one. It's to have
No.
something done so you can give it to people. Now, it's still good. Don't put crap in your products. Like, it's still got to have good content and value. But it was much easier to write. It's 120 pages. It's just a couple of quick things in each chapter about what I've learned in the martial arts and self-defense world.
Yeah.
And it was easy to do. And what it really was, Ninja Secret, again, for the listeners, Warrior Attitude, I wrote the whole thing in 5 days. It was
Wow.
written and published and online and Amazon in 5 days. How's that possible, Alex? Because I'd already been blogging for over a year. I copy and pasted 21 blog posts and made them the book chapters, and it was done. I had to tweak it, tweak the wording a little bit so it made sense for a book, but pretty much the whole thing was done. So don't reinvent the wheel. If you're a content creator and you've been putting stuff out, you have material for a book. Just publish something. Just get it done. It doesn't have to be your magnum opus. Do the first one and then start working on the magnum opus.
Yeah.
Because this Anatomy of a Warrior one, this is my big one. This is going to be the platform that everything else is going to be based on for a very long time. But I wouldn't have gotten here if I didn't just do the first one.
Yeah.
One
of my coaches told me that years ago. It's just journal every day, and then a year later, you've got multiple books.
Oh yeah, you've got tons of books, and if you interview anybody, record everything.
Yeah.
Even if you got to put the phone on speaker and like hold up a little voice recorder to it, I don't care what you got to do, but record it, because I have all my interviews recorded over the phone.
Yeah.
And that's literally all I did. I could have used like probably a free conference call if I'd have been thinking about it at the time. But I literally just pulled out Sony voice recorder, put people on speaker, hit record.
Yeah.
And audio is still good enough for me to hear it. It's not great quality for like a podcast, but I can hear everything still. And so I got all that material forever. And we ended up talking about all kinds of things that weren't related to the book. How do you survive deadly force encounters? Then they're telling me crazy stories about when they were, in the service and stuff. And it's like, not all stuff's not going in the book, but I've got all that information saved forever. So if I ever want to pull something else out, write another book, I already did all the interviews. I already have a bunch of the information done.
That's the easiest way to create content, like we're doing here.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. It's very, and plus Zoom's so easy to use now.
Yeah.
I love Zoom.
Can't beat it. Yep. So Alex, this is so many great tips here. I can't even begin to summarize. So how can people get in touch with you and get on your email list and get your book?
Yes, they can get the book by going to www.alexlanshe.com. So I'll just have you ask for a name and an email, and then that'll take you to the Amazon link. So the main site is Alex Lanshe, and that's ALEXLANSHE.com. That's the main website where I run everything out of. And I'm on Facebook as Anatomy of a Warrior. You can like that page on Facebook. Also, the YouTube channel. I think we have 5 subscribers because I just started the channel. So, but more and more are going to be coming in as people get the book. So the YouTube channel is The Anatomy of a Warrior Show. I'm doing some of my own interviews as well. I interviewed one of the guys for the book who is a 20-year counterterrorism expert. His interview is live on the channel. And also I'm doing a millennial series, interviewing some of the millennials I know and talking about how some of their success can be related to the warrior virtues. And so the first millennial I interviewed was Annie Keffer, who just wrote her own book as well, and she's hosted live events for women's empowerment and things like that. So I talked to her. She's been a good friend for a long time.
She's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, she's great. So those 2 are already posted. And also the new one is Patreon. If anybody knows what Patreon is.
Yep.
I started my own Patreon. I got my first patron.
Yay.
From a totally random person who just read the book. I don't even know who they are. I'm like, that is cool to see. So I have 1 patron now officially. And if you don't know what Patreon is, it's basically like back in the day, someone like Da Vinci would have had a patron, pay him to create his art, so to speak. That's basically what Patreon is now, just for modern day artists. So for me, it's going to support the interviewing of more people on the Anatomy of a Warrior show, the creation of more books, getting on other podcasts, doing, live events and things of that nature. So What I'm going to start doing is all the blogs I've been doing are going to start being released every other week, the free ones. So if you want to see everything, you got to become a patron. So the free ones will be out every other week. And then if you really want to have access to all the different interviews I do, all the different content we're going to be on, then we're going to start shifting some of that to Patreon only for those members, because they should be rewarded for their support.
I have a friend that had a YouTube channel like that, and he's oh man, he's had a huge following very quickly.
Yep. So look up. I think it's Patreon, www.patreon.com, I think /AOW, which is short for Anatomy of a Warrior. So
I'll check it out. Definitely.
It on Patreon.
I'll put it in the show notes too.
Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, I'll send you. I don't think I sent you all those links, so I'll send you all those other links.
Cool.
I only sent you the Alex Lanshe website, I think.
Yeah, I'll get them all in the show notes for you. Hey, thanks for your time. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. This was great. I hope it was valuable, and I hope the listeners, got some good stuff, and they can go apply it and write their books and go forth and conquer.
I'm going to order your book right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
For more free training, visit socialsellingminute.com.